Hey guys, thanks for stopping by. But before we get started, just wanted to make sure if you guys haven't gotten your pre-releases for Opus 9, be sure to check out Happy Little Hug Factory. I'll leave a link in the description below. There are limited quantities, so make sure you guys get them before we move into the next set. Alright guys, Emo Tempest here, and today I want to share with you this Water Lightning FF9 deck. I personally got my invite with this in the TAMPA local qualifier, and I do have the one and only Johnathan Gordon here, who also got his invite in Ottawa. Johnathan, say hi to everyone.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Cool, man. So let me give you guys a little backstory here. The reason I chose this deck, so all in all, we had an LQ at our store just a little while back here in Miami, and there was a lot of water hate. Everyone came loaded, ready to deal with Miami's water presence, and you know what? That was fine. Shout outs to, them. But I started thinking, like, what am I going to do to play at this Tampa Cup? And I tried a bunch of decks. I said I was going to switch to Lightning. I said I was going to play Ice Wind Discard. I even tried the Ice Earth that everyone's on right now, but it wasn't working out for me. And so I know I've always wanted to play Water Lightning. And I started looking up lists, and then of course it hit me that JG here has been playing this since Nationals, right?
Actually, no, I tried to play. Actually, I was going to play it at Nationals, and then I chickened out and went with Turbo, and I got punished.
But you had it with you, right? Because I remember seeing it.
Yes, I had it with me, and I was running it, and then some testing the night before discouraged me, and then I was like, screw it, Turbo Ice.
Let's
go.
go.
Result, and let's do this, and then of course I get destroyed. Well, I didn't get destroyed, but I didn't quite make that top cut, so I learned my lesson.
Yeah, so he's been at it for a while, and there's nothing. See, the thing about, like, for me, I don't normally net deck, but I had to take this because one of the best parts about this deck is that it has all the information that he's gathered building this deck since then, and that's from the beginning of Opus. What is that? 7, 8, and 9, right?
Yeah, pretty much since Opus 7, yeah.
Yeah, so since Opus 7, and we're right here at the, this will probably, just a heads up for everyone listening to, this is my last Opus 8 video. Next week we are definitely going to be talking about Opus 9 stuff, so please stay tuned for that. But, with all that information already integrated into this deck, I had to take it. Andy helped me play test here a little bit, and sure enough, it did wonderfully. My final, I think for the tournament, for my LQ, I went X1 in Swiss. I think it was 5 rounds, and then I took my round top 4, and then I took my top 2, and then I got it. So I got first place, got the trophy, brought it home, and Jonathan, how was yours? How was yours, by the way?
Mine was pretty good. I'm not sure. You said you had a pretty heavy water meta. In Ottawa, we have a pretty heavy water wind meta. So my deck, I made some changes to the list that's showing on the screen just because what I found was water wind, just those board clears are just really tough to deal with, and going wide is pretty tough. So I made some changes so that way I could push, and then as soon as they try to react, some of the extra EX bursts were allowed to we're able to help me punish them and kind of get an extra few resources, whether it's draws or even killing something. And then I can literally put them to 5 or 6 and then close out the game after that. So Ottawa was tough just because, we got some strong players out there.
Of course.
Some difficult matchups. But, I just made some small changes. But to be fair, I really love my Kansas list. I think that's probably as good as it can get. I don't know if I could have made any more improvements to it. I think what you did to it, though, by adding the extra Layla instead of the Porum, I thought that was pretty legit. I just love that EX Burst Porum, and I love the fact that Porum can come down, search for that closing card, and then you go for game. But Layla is a huge part of the engine, and not having that sometimes can really hurt. So I kind of like that little change there. But all in all, I do like this list a lot. It definitely seems like it's probably where I would go from there as far as making improvements.
Okay, and just like he said, guys, so this was his list from the Crystal Cup in Kansas, the wind one, right? That's the wind one?
Yeah, that was the wind cup, yeah.
And so again, I looked at his list, and then I go, this is great, we tested it, and I honestly only made one change. I put 3 Laylas instead of 3 Porums, and I think it made the biggest difference. I was able to get, the Rams of play off a little better, as well as the Cloud of Darknesses. And it also helps, interestingly enough, just being able to swing with Freya to reduce something into the 5k range for the Layla Viking party is always funny for me.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
But yeah, so I'm going to go over the list with you guys real quick, and then I'll pass it off to JG here to give you guys some pointers or anything really, any other little anecdotes he has on the deck. So True Rigdia. Simple, goes with the Al Cid. My favorite part about the Rigdia all weekend, though, has to be playing the win matchup. They Zidane me, leave the Rigdia in my hand, proceed to drop him next turn, and that I never have to see that Zidane for a little while. So it does take care of Zidane pretty early on, so I like that. Considering everyone's playing it, I think that's very important. Black Waltz 3, obviously a good card too. Another Al Cid, partner. Helps you get into the 8Ks, and it's also threatening too when it's on the defensive for people, so a good one of's fine. And again, this is the 9 build, so Black Waltz helps with that synergy as well, letting Steiner or Searchable with Eiko. So that's in there for you too. 2 Freya. I'd always been really fond of this card from, as soon as we got it in Opus 8, but I never found the right deck for it. Like, I wanted to play it in, Mono Water for Soya, but then there's always, better cards and stuff. So I was really happy that I was able to play this. There was only a few times that I got away with the haste part by having Estinian on board, but it was important, so I think it was there. Triple Lua, obviously a super annoying card to deal with. Great for, the ice matchups, just so because they won't be able to dull it and freeze it right away. Also helps giving, our 4, usually when we have 4 bodies on board, haste. Layla Viking into a Lua or Al Cid into any of those combinations are really great. Obviously the draw engine, we have Viking and the Laylas. And now we have the 3-drop Light Zidane. Now, a lot of people ask, they asked me, right? Like, they're like, why do you play that card? And I go, and I didn't honestly know what to say, so that's why I had to ask JG. So, JG, tell them why we play that card, man.
This card is so good. Like, if it wasn't a light card, I would run 3 of it. But this card literally puts pressure in the right way and super efficiently. Like, it's very versatile, too. We could probably get up to 4 9 characters where you play this card, and hey, you might even have a few forwards that are frozen, right? And dull frozen or dull. And you could play this card and literally activate pretty much most of your forwards and your backups, and then set up a big, Cloud of Darkness or Ramza play, right? Like, people think they're safe, and then, literally this card can add something to that. Also, which is my favorite play, going into, Steiner, Search the Dame, plays the Dame, discard. You've now got an 8K, 7K, and you've just lowered the resources in their hand to respond to that pressure. It makes things very awkward for control decks, and even sometimes aggressive decks. And it's hard to answer those forwards, right? So you've just kind of made their job a bit harder, and, it's just, again, it's a very cheap 7K body, so, you have to respect that. And even if they kill it, you're like,
I'll just play the next one.
Play another one,
yeah.
Play another one, and that's the thing, too. Or it tempos out, super awesome, right? Okay, I got to go for this Ramza or Cloud of Darkness play. Well, drawing a card, for 2 CP, or, that's insane. It's as close as we get to Pain, basically. So that's kind of, how I look at the card. I'm like, I don't have a Pain that does, bonkers plays, but this is pretty close, and I think it's just super huge to play the card. Yeah, it's an old card, but it's so good. It's probably one of my favorite cards in the deck other than Ramza, and I think it just puts in so much work low-key that people don't seem to realize, so yeah.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there. It was definitely a surprise. A lot of my opponents would often set up in a certain way, and they'd leave themselves with one card, and I'm like, okay, sounds good, great work. and sure enough, I did the same thing too. It was either, if I had the Freya, I'd obviously put the Freya and then drop the Zidane, but either way, any of the 9 forwards make him a 2-cost. And so that was really that was the most efficient plays I can do, and it's just I kind of messed up everything they had going for the next turn. And so I was able to, put the pressure on from there and then keep going. And I think I only did the activate everything once. I did get a Steiner back, Eiko Bermesia back too, and it let me play, I think it let me play the Layla Viking too. So I was able to produce another 2 more forwards because of it, you know what I'm saying?
Nice.
But yeah, that card's still good. I really want to mess with it more, but let's move on. So 3 Al Cid, everyone knows Al Cid, not much to say. But if we have to, it's because he puts 2 bodies on board, and this deck revolves around that, right? Helping add that pressure.
Yeah, exactly. It's also solid removal too, right? People have to respect it, and if they don't, they usually get punished, especially ice decks, right? They might say, "Oh, Garland, go," and you're like, "Okay," Al Cid Alua, GG, and
go.
oh shit,
yeah.
So yeah, They have to respect that card, and it's hard to respect. It's hard to play around sometimes. So
yeah, playing around that and the Layla Viking Rush is just too many things for sometimes, and that's what's
the
great
thing.
about it.
You can literally go Layla Viking, and they're like, oh crap, I have to respond to this, play a body, and then Al Cid. Now you're at 4 forwards, got 2 points of damage, and now you're like a Cloud of Darkness or a Ramza away from pretty much closing out the game.
Yeah.
So games can go really quick, and that's kind of how I see those 2 cards working well together.
Yeah. I did that actually once. I think it was in the span of 3 turns. It was Layla Viking, Al Cid, and then sure enough, the 3rd turn was the Ramza, and it was done.
Oh,
it was
crazy.
Nuts.
Love it.
We do have, again, now we already mentioned Layla, but we'll say it anyway. Layla to draw and bodies. We have the 2 Porom, and again for me, I've never liked playing 3 Porom, and I guess ultimately for me that was one of the factors making the one switch I did. When I was playing Mono Water, when I play Water Earth or any other water variant, I'm stuck, and I probably won't change this myself, is leave 2 Porom. Although it is a good card, it does help us get there. Water already has a lot of drawing as it is. And I think you mentioned off mic earlier, it's a searcher, right? It's a closer. We're trying to get to the last pieces. I don't want to, if I have one out, I don't want to draw another one, right? That's just really what it is for me. Because I'm waiting. I need to let that one die and then still play another one. So I'd rather, see them a little more far apart than I normally would. So that's my reasoning for it. 2 Cloud of Darkness. Obviously, the big bodies. Get rid of big things. And Estidian, probably my new favorite card. Ice has nothing for this for the most part. I found. I don't know how you Ice Earth. They have the what are they called? The Cecils, right? But attacking first, and then before damage, you'll activate Estinian. Leaves us safe, 100% safe, so we never actually have to worry about that. And other than that, they're just like, even if they freeze us, you can still activate him and attack again. So just something for you guys if you didn't know, on anyone listening. Estinian is a great card. I definitely plan on playing him a lot more this set. 3 Steiners, EX Burst, searches, anything. All of our pieces. It fixes Al Cid if we don't have a target. It gives us Freya with haste if we have Estinian on board. It gives us the Zidane to get 2 bodies, discard a card or whatever. And he's character, so we can also search our backups. Let's say we only end up you guys might have noticed already. There's only 14 backups in the list, and Steiner fixes that if we're only on 1. Right? We can get the Artemisian, the Braun, the Echo, and the Bermesia. Then that's it. Then we move on to backups, and that's the rest of the game. Great card, love it. 2 Ramsas. I found myself the only thing I don't like about these Ramsas is that if I draw one really early, it's just terrible, right? Because I have to pitch it and then wait for the other one because I need to get the bodies on board. But other than that, I think 2's fine. When it goes off, it goes off, right? Like it's the craziest thing. Backups, we're going to rush through real quick. 2 Artemisian, help hot fix the deck if we get bad hands. The 2 Black Mages, also real good for the Zidane if you don't have the Rigdias. I just like getting rid of Zidane. It's my new favorite thing. It's just like
if you Black Mage as Zidane, it's over.
Yeah, one card answers for Zidanes are just great right now. So one you guys might not be familiar with is Magus. 4K break, tap and break, 4K to inactive. A lot of times for me, I was doing if I didn't have enough bodies for the Cloud of Darkness plays, I would have 1 drop Cloud. If I get the 4 off, I would finish it off with Magus. That would be great. Same thing with Al Cid. If I drop an Ilua, Magus fixes that. Anything else too, really. If I feel like my opponent's just in that range, it really gets us there. And Rigdia Magus obviously, just for 7, right? So that's good.
Yeah.
And then the 2 Avelia. Now, at first, I was a little bit iffy about the Avelia because it only helps 2 things, right? Our Steiners and our Ramsas. But having Ramza, when I only have 3 bodies and I drop the Ramza and he's just there, he's good enough now to get haste and stuff. I felt that it was worth it every time. I never complained about it again.
There's too many games where I would not have Ovelia down and I'd be like, oh my god, I have enough to play this Ramza, but you need 4 forwards, and that's tough when decks these nowadays, especially most of your guys are small. It's super essential to make sure that you can get Ramza 3 through from 1 to 3 CP. If you're trying to get him with 4 bodies. It's pretty tough sometimes. Like, it can happen, but like sometimes it's game changing when you can get him down for 3. And that Ovelia is just huge. It's in worst case, it's a 2-cost backup, right?
Right,
like,
of course.
Not really handcuffing you. So.
And honestly, like, people sleeping on it with the Steiner, like they assume assume he's at 7 because he's like, oh, he's got this the 9 character or whatever. And sure enough, they swing. I'll block. And I think it happened too. Someone hit me with like 7K something. I think I ran into a legendary Cloud EX at just enough to make it 7K damage. They target Steiner, and I go, okay. Attack? And they're like, no, he's dead.
Yeah.
Nope, he's not. Ovelia. And they go, it's the best.
Yeah, they don't. I love it. So many people, I think it happened to me in Kansas, unfortunately. I felt bad for the guy, but he was very like quick to just go, oh yeah, combat swing. And I was like, block, and very quickly, and he was like, 7, right? And I was like, no, sorry, dude, he's 8. And normally if people, and all the time, if people ask me, like, power check, I'm like, yeah, he's 8. But sometimes people don't, and they just assume, and they just go in.
Of course.
And yeah, that literally just wins you a game, right?
Yep.
Like, you just kill you just win. And an 8K Steiner, right? Like, that's nothing to laugh at. Like, he's essentially a 3-cost, and he just puts in so much work at 8K, so can't go wrong.
Can't go wrong. Red Mage, my favorite thing about Red Mage in this deck is giving Cloud of Darkness haste. It's super threatening, right? Like, if I have, like, just dropping him, hopefully removing something, and if I don't, I can haste him and finish it off. It's been another favorite part about this deck. 2 Brawn, search the Viking, pretty much the only reason. Also, it's 9 though, right? So Steiner, it helps. It's searchable by Steiner, so there's that full circle there. Echo to get the forwards, and Bermesia to get Estinian and Freya. 6 Ramus, 3-drop, and the 4-drop EX. Super simple. I hit at least 1 EX every time. Obviously, I had a really good run that day. I'm not gonna lie. The deck is strong, but everything did go super well for me as well. I think I only lost 2 mono water incidentally. But I wouldn't say I did definitely make a misplay, but it was only like minor. It's just I swung with one before the other one, and sure enough, I got hit with an EX. That made the difference. But yeah, JG, tell me, going into Opus 9 right now, what do you think? Where do you think we are with this deck?
So the deck is, don't get me wrong, the deck is really solid. I love playing it. There's a couple things that I've considered going forward with the deck. Opus 9 doesn't give you a lot of obvious cards where you can just say, put this card in and you're good to go. Like, same with Opus 8. It was kind of like, when you look at the list, what's the only new... I think, like, Freya's, like, the only really new card in the deck. So, it's like, I look at Opus 9 and I'm like, it might be the same thing where you might put in 1 or 2 new cards. Like, that new Kane seems pretty legit because... just playing a 4-cost basically, kill something with power reduction is really good, and it's searchable with Bermesia. So you can play with that toolbox. Yeah. And that's like the one obvious thing that stands out to me. And then there's a couple things I would probably want to change because I found that the summon lineup, it's really tough to deal with Yuri. When Yuri comes out, sitting at 8K, a lot of my cards have to be comboed in order to kill that Yuri. Right. Unless it's just sitting there without an ability to tap, and then El Cid's good to go. Yeah. But that doesn't always happen. Most people are really good about just being like, no, I'm going to play this so I can tap it. And so there's some cards where like maybe the summon lineup could change. I thought about maybe like, maybe we just have some direct answers to 4 costs, like Dragon, or Odin, because at least with Dragon, some people might think that it's terrible, but you can play it for 2, let it chill there for a bit, and then it literally just kills the Yuri, or it just kills anything like your Stola or Aerith, and it can sit there until you need it, kind of like what Magus does and whatnot, and then you just use it and it closes out a game, and it doesn't require you to have to if I'm sitting with 6 cards in hand and let's say there's a couple summons, like you don't want to just cast something for the sake of casting or even discard. It could be as simple as putting that piece there for later. Not many people, there's not going to be really an issue where that card's going to get canceled or negated. There's no Emperor. And Porum, yeah, that might happen, but not always. Right. So I kind of like some things to answer Yuri a bit better. And I also considered Zidane Legendary from Opus 8. Now, the reason why I consider that card is because of the way the meta's kind of going. Lightning used to be, aggro decks were pretty popular in Opus 8. At the beginning, I found people were, playing Zidane Blue, and they wanted to play that legendary, and then people were scared of it, so people were playing like Lightning decks and Fire decks that had like good answers
First
to this
turn,
card efficiently.
first turn answers, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But now I look at it now, and I'm like, like, you know, this could be good again, where people are just playing Wind and Wind Earth and Ice, and like Ice has probably got the best answer with Sid Reigns. Other than that, turn one, most decks can't really answer this card efficiently, right? So then it becomes lateral. And then if it doesn't, and then best case scenario, they answer it, but then they paid, 4 CP or something like that. They've overpaid for something just to deal with it. So it kind of can make your opponent play poorly. And then even if you don't draw cards, it did what it was supposed to do. Either make them pitch cards from their hand, or to play poorly, or or if it gets the draws in, then you're feeling good. You can get like maybe your 5 backups and 5 cards in hand by turn 2 or 3 after a couple swings, right? Yeah. So the card is interesting. I've reconsidered it. But Opus 9, I don't know. Like, there's some nice new cards, but I just don't know with this specific deck, you can just throw them in there, and then the deck still operates the same way. Opus 9, I think, really opens up a lot of creativity for you to take those cards, build around them, and then maybe look back at some other older cards and see how they all synergize together. But I don't know if this deck gets a whole lot of extra help other than maybe Kane. But hey, I haven't been able to sit down and really look at all the cards too much. I've been still tinkering with stuff, but I still got to sit down and really give some extra thought. So I don't know. What about you?
Honestly, I was thinking Zidane beforehand. Before I went into this, I haven't even touched Opus 9 yet. Like, I'm really like weird, and I have to have the cards in my hand sometimes before actually, visualizing things. So even though everything's on FFTCG now, and like I have some from the pre-release, I pulled the Fusoya, so that's an idea always for me, right? Just because it's on theme. And yeah, the Kane was an obvious one for me as well. But did you know we could drop 2-drop Blue Zidane and then do Electric Jellyfish for first turn haste? That's so silly. And then
the only thing I don't like, keep going.
And then if he lives another turn and they drop a body, you can go remove it, dull it with the Jellyfish, and it's just we get 2 turns guaranteed. And I don't know. That's the silliest thing, but that's where my head is sometimes.
I kind of don't. The only thing I don't like about even either Fire or Water, I'm not a huge fan of like the Zidane, haste it, swing in, get those draws like ASAP. I think the card literally on its own does what it's supposed to do. If it sits there for a turn and it swings, fantastic. Even if they go, play something to answer it, and let's say they started first and they had a backup to maybe curve out to a Fanford, or they burn a Valfor to kill it, whatever. It's like, you're okay with that, right? They're using good cards to kill a 2-cost forward, and then literally you just reset the game and you just continue from there. The only time that like Zidane Blue you have to be careful about is like, don't get too committed to playing the card. Like, if the card doesn't work out, move on.
Right.
Because when you commit too much to getting this card to go off or playing it, you're going to play poorly, and then the deck you're going to lose. So you have to kind of like, it's a great turn 1 play, and even on turn 2, let's say someone goes, you're going second, like Ico into Zidane Blue curves perfectly. You got 5 cards in hand, 2 backups, Zidane's on the board. Even in that state of the game, people might have answers for it, and they do. It's probably just going to be lateral, so it's not the end of the world.
Right.
So I kind of like that card quite a bit as a card to come back into the deck, just because Lightning and Fire, I see everywhere just saying, oh, those elements basically suck, and no one's playing them, or no one thinks that they're good elements. So you're going to see a lot less of those in the meta, and you're going to see a lot more of you're going to see Wind and Earth and all these things that, again, probably don't have the most efficient answers in that state of the game. I could be wrong, but based on what I've thought about recently, Zidane Legendary Blue could be decent again, but who knows? Maybe I play it and then someone black mages me and I cry. Who knows? That was just my early impression of the card in Opus 8. I played it when I went to Tampa. I was testing it, and I got black maged, and I was like, oh god, like this is just brutal. I can't take a chance playing this card anymore. But if you look at the meta and how it shifts, sometimes it's not that much of a risk. Mm-hmm. And obviously, after the first turn, if they go first or whatever, you're going to know what they're playing, and then you can probably go from there. So I'm not too concerned about that card getting destroyed, for value plays. I think the card could put in some work, but that's just like one thing I've thought about. And But yeah, the list, it might not change a whole lot. That Kane is all I can really think of right now, and I want to tinker around with Fusoya a little bit, but Fusoya again seems like that card you have to build a bit more around.
Yeah.
And that's gonna change. That's gonna change this deck primarily quite a bit. So you have to just be careful about. You can't be too creative, and that's where I felt like in Opus 8, I was like, oh man, I feel like there should be more cards going into this deck to make it better from Opus 8. And then afterwards, I was like, no, I guess there's not. Like, Freya's the only thing, and that's just the only thing that really made the cut, and then everything else is just older cards. So it doesn't necessarily, might not need a whole lot of changes. Like, Kane might not even make the cut, but I think Kane will, just because it's part of a toolbox, and whether you run one or two, he can set up Freya a lot easier and kill something. Or even them together, they can kill a 10k, and that's pretty insane, right? Like,
yeah.
And then she has haste, and like, you can get a little cheeky and like run, I don't know, Argy, and if you break the Argy, then that Kane gets haste, and then you can swing with the Kane as well, and then you got two bodies swinging in. Or you can run Fusoya backup, which gets you back a forward, which isn't too bad. There was a guy at what's it called? Who brought that up? Johnny Dreyer. I met him. He was actually playing my exact deck in like a Soldier Series tournament in
nice.
RVA, and he smashed me, which was hilarious. I had fun losing to my own deck. But he made the suggestion of Fusoya, and I was like, I was kind of against it, and then I was like, well, I don't like it just because it's one of those very situational cards, but you know, you could run like one of it in the deck, and it could just be one of those backups where you don't really want to see it early, but at the same time, with a black mage, it could be pretty cool, or it could just kill like a Porum, right? And then you get a backup, or it kills those smaller things and gets you a backup.
Sid
and then in that state of the game where you want to play your Kane, like Kane becomes just a little bit better at getting back a forward, right? After it kills something and breaks a backup, like that seems pretty sweet. So you know, I would say like what's probably going to happen with this deck is we're probably going to be looking at older cards again, and seeing how older cards are probably just going to make a comeback, and then maybe that one or two new additions, probably just the one new addition with Kane into the deck, and then go from there. But that's kind of how I see this deck running. Worst case, it runs out of steam and other decks just get too good. But I like, if Ice is still popular, this deck has a place because it can deal with Ice pretty well because of the Lightning cards. And the fact that it draws cards is also very helpful. So it's got that nice balance where it can play against those matchups. It's just those win variants that sometimes can be a little clears, and they're efficient board clears. See, but Downluma being gone, I'm pretty happy about that. Because if Downluma's gone, that's one less obstacle I need to worry about. As far as that thing just pinging off my Vikings and my Porums, whatever, just pinging off my small guys, and then you're just like, oh, well, I guess I lose. That setup is just too broken, right? So it might just make the matchup against Wind Earth a bit stronger, but Water Wind is matchup, especially people who play that deck really well. So
yeah, and honestly, I was fortunate enough to avoid that. I played Wind and Earth Wind, and I played everything else but Water Wind against anyway. But I was
nice.
Yeah, so I thought I did have a rough time against Wind, but overall I triumphed. So happy about that.
Yeah.
JG, thank you so much for coming on, helping me explain this deck, sharing this with all of the people. Anyone listening, if you want to play us, you're looking forward to it, we'll see you at Nationals.
Yeah.
And yeah, with that, we'll catch you later. JG, take care, man. Thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it. This was a lot of fun. Thank you.
All right, man. Everyone, take care.